A long time ago, way back in the olden days of Pokemon, there was a certain egg-like Pokemon that made its way into our favorite traveling companion's hands. How it all went down was our heroes were at Grandpa Canyon. Yeah, I know, Grandpa Canyon, the Pokemon anime and its names. You could literally mine up Pokemon crap there. I'm dead serious. That aside though, after an explosive battle of Ash's Charizard and a pissed off Aerodactyl, a strange egg was found. The egg wound up hatching into a new Generation 2 Pokemon at the time, being Togepi. Now, everyone wanted that Togepi egg. Team Rocket, Ash, Brock, and Misty. Oh, and Meowth as well. They held a battling tournament among them to see which trainer would keep Togepi. Not surprising, Ash won. However, Togepi wound up choosing Misty instead. It went to her willingly. What if, though, Togepi chose Ash instead? I mean, think about it. It makes sense to a degree. Ash technically found Togepi first, and we also can't forget the amazing moments shared between Pikachu and Togepi. You could argue Togepi went to Misty and they had a great relationship. Sure, you're correct. But I want to take a different approach, and I think you guys will enjoy that approach. So that being said, let's get our brains scrambled up. Starting off, we find our heroes at Grandpa Canyon, and the events transpire in the way they usually do. Brock also takes care of the egg in the way he does. Finally, it's time for the egg to hatch, and as per the events of the anime, Ash wins Togepi again. Team Rocket, though, being petty, take the egg from Ash and friends, and they begin to fight over it. The egg is being bounced everywhere, and I still have no idea how Togepi didn't suffer from anything traumatic after that at all. This battle becomes so intense that the egg drops in midair with Pikachu catching it, and this time, the egg hatches right in front of Pikachu. Togepi hatches with the most wholesome of expressions, and begins to smile happily back at Pikachu. Togepi sees Pikachu as its mother, and with that said, Ash motherfreaking Ketchum pops in and says, "Hi Togepi, I'm Ash!" Togepi doesn't bat an eye, and is only infatuated with Pikachu. Pikachu begins playing peekaboo of Togepi, and it just starts laughing. Misty then states, "Wow, I really wanted to keep Togepi, but I don't want to ruin that relationship." Even with Team Rocket, who really wanted Togepi, agreed with this, because they really cared for Togepi as well. Everyone just wanted to see Togepi happy. Ash then questions, "So wait, does that technically mean Togepi is mine?" Pikachu introduces Togepi to Ash, but being as impressionable as it is, it still only pays attention to Pikachu. This is the start of a brand new journey with two best friends. Throughout the rest of the Indigo League, Togepi and Pikachu bond like how they usually would, except Pikachu is more of a caregiver sort of figure. Ash, seeing this, slowly starts to change a lot mentally. After a while, Ash starts to take care of Togepi as well, and even starts playing all sorts of Peekaboo-esque games we see. Ash's entire team of Pokemon even help Pikachu supervise Togepi, helping it grow and nurture. One night, as the gang is out camping under a fire, Pikachu and Togepi are both seen sleeping next to each other, embracing each other in the most wholesome way possible. Ash sees this and smiles. He then places a blanket over the both of them to make sure they stay warm. Pikachu usually sleeps with Ash along with Togepi next to him. However, tonight, they played a little bit too much, and thus knocked out a little bit earlier than expected. Togepi has one of its eyes opened slightly, and sees Ash place the blanket over them. After a little while, Ash starts to fall asleep. But little to his surprise, a little Togepi cuddles up to him, and shortly after, Pikachu follows. Togepi and Ash finally started to form a bond. Misty sees this within the corner of her eye, and she smiles as she drifts back to sleep. After the little journey across Kanto they have left, Ash and friends finally make it to the Indigo League. From there, the events happen a little bit differently. Due to Ash taking care of Togepi, he actually blossoms into a much more mature person, even helping him in his battle decisions. With that said, Ash makes it all the way to the top 8 this time in the Indigo Plateau instead of the top 16. He decides to use Tauros and Muck more efficiently this time around, garnering him a very respectable position. Heck, even Gary is impressed with his performance, although he won't say it. Togepi, the entire time Ash was battling, is seen with Ash's mother up in the stands. Of course, Ash's mom and Professor Oak are cheering for him a lot, and this definitely motivates Togepi. Togepi witnesses how hard Pikachu and the rest of Ash's other Pokemon are working together, and this definitely does have an impact. With that said, the Indigo League is over, and our Poketagonists head over to the Orange Islands. Aside from Brock, because Professor Ivy and all the really strange stuff between them happened. Yeah. Once in the Orange Islands, Ash receives the GS Ball, and decides to take on the Orange Crew. Ash also meets Lapras, and they become friends and thus ferry across the islands with it. Of course though, a certain pink puff friend also makes their way with the gang. It's a normal day in the Orange Islands, and our puffy friend floats to a certain island chain of grapefruits. While on the blimp with Ash and Misty, Jigglypuff gets washed up there. On that island chain of grapefruit, Jigglypuff meets a group of other Jigglypuff. This specific group of Jigglypuff loves to cause trouble and put people to sleep. Not to mention, the Snorlax problem on this island chain is under check due to Jigglypuff's singing. The group of Jigglypuff are hoarding a lot of these grapefruit so they can eat and prosper. The leader of that group is a Jigglypuff with strange regional markings on it, very similar to the Pokemon native to the Orange Islands. The other Jigglypuff are also the same, but the leader looks more distinguished and tough. Being that our Jigglypuff looks like a typical Cantonian one, there is a bit of discrimination involved. However, our Jigglypuff wants to prove a point, so it takes out its mic and puts every single one of them, including the leader, to sleep, and draws super hilarious designs on them as well. A few hours later, they wake up, and regular Jigglypuff is nowhere to be found. The leader of the Jigglypuff group is highly impressed by this, and is even seen blushing as he finds out he was put to sleep by such a beautiful performance. The leader finds our Jigglypuff crying because of the bullying it went through, and the fact that everyone fell asleep. Leader Jigglypuff holds our Jigglypuff's hand and tells it, basically, that was the most captivating performance it had ever heard. Our Jigglypuff looks into the eyes of the leader Jigglypuff, and just like that, they fell in love. Both Jigglypuff love performing in front of huge crowds, and with that, they bonded. Sometime later, Ash and the gang find their way over to the Grapefruit Paradise, and as the events go in the anime, they solve the crisis with Snorlax, and Ash has a new big boy on the team. However, there are some slight twists in this mini-adventure. Misty finds a pink egg with very unique patterns on it, similar to the ones a previous Jigglypuff group had. The people on the island describe the group of previous Jigglypuff to Misty and friends. They also state that the Jigglypuff group had vanished out of nowhere and have no idea how to explain their disappearance. But little do they know, our cute puff friend inspired the Jigglypuff group to become a Jigglypuff choir. So now they're going around the Orange Islands putting on concerts. And who knows, maybe they will even put on concerts all around the world. With all that said though, and our hero's not questioning it, Misty decides to take care of the bizarre looking pink egg. Pikachu, knowing the process of taking care of an egg already, starts to help Misty really care for it. Togepi begins to get a little jealous every now and then, and starts to get really upset by this. However, Pikachu, being the good boy he is, introduces Togepi to the egg, and they begin taking care of it together. Togepi starts to feel like an older sibling, really maturing and also aiding a lot to Misty and Pikachu's care for the egg. As the group journeys through the islands, Charizard finally starts to respect Ash more, and even starts to light up a Togepi a little bit, even taking it and Pikachu on rides together. Charizard's outlook really changes a lot, and even starts to act like a big brother. It's a really beautiful sight to see. Eventually though, Ash does win his 4 badges to battle in the Orange League, and he wins it impressively just like how he originally does. This time though, Ash wins a lot more impressively due to his bonding with Togepi and different circumstances that happened. Togepi once again sees Ash and his team win. This pumps up Togepi a lot, due to how much battling it's seen Ash and Pikachu do so far. Togepi, even during the journey, even had some metronome moments where stuff blew up and such. The gang was still oblivious to what was going on, but Pikachu clearly knew. Togepi wanted to battle, and Pikachu started to train with it, teaching it basic stuff like moving around, dodging, etc. This little go-getter was motivated to be a star. Being a bigger sibling model also inspired Togepi to strive to become better. With the events of the Orange Islands over, it was time to head over to Johto. Ash and friends make their way over to Nabark Town. There, they meet Professor Elm, who Professor Oak believes to have some information about the GS Ball. At first, Professor Elm seemed interested in the GS Ball, but then he saw the strange egg Misty was holding in her hands. He told them, "In all the years I have been doing Pokemon research, I have never seen an egg with those patterns and shapes." Mwah. The gang then explains they found it over in the Orange Islands, and he recalls that Pokemon over there have different patterns than the ones native to Kanto and Johto. After that conversation and Professor Elm's fascination, what do you know? Team Rocket overhears the conversation and realizes his egg is really rare and could be very valuable to the boss. Team Rocket had seen the egg up to this point, but they never thought anything of it because they were always focused on Pikachu. But after hearing a well-renowned Pokemon researcher talk about it, the greed really kicked in. This inspires Team Rocket to take action immediately, and they use one of their high-tech machines to go and grab the egg. Team Rocket gains possession of the egg when the heroes let their guards down a little bit, sneakily taking it. Before anyone even realized that the egg was gone, Togepi was already gone in pursuit of the egg. Togepi's training was paying off. Togepi snuck onto a small hole on Team Rocket's machine and immediately confronts them. Team Rocket, actually loving Togepi, is really happy to see it, but due to Togepi being so protective, it headbutts Meowth right in the face, knocking him back a pretty good amount. Team Rocket is really surprised about how strong Togepi had been getting, but with the first attack made, Team Rocket retaliates back, thus capturing Togepi as well. However, by the time Togepi is captured, Ash and friends already arrive on the scene. Pikachu, worried for Togepi, immediately runs and busts the cage Togepi is in. Once Togepi is freed, Ash attempts to tell Pikachu to use Thunderbolt to blast Team Rocket. Misty, however, calls out and says, "No, Ash, they have my egg, look!" Team Rocket is then seen getting away with the egg in their balloon, and they are already at a pretty decent height in the sky. Togepi sees this and begins to remember all the times it had caring for the egg, and then it begins to cry a little. Togepi then screams super loud, letting out an incredible battle cry, and then suddenly, its body starts to glow. The love and affection Togepi had for Ash and Pikachu and the pink egg had all paid off. Togepi finally evolved in the Togetic. Once evolved, Togetic takes off into the sky and fires off a Swift attack. I'm aware Togetic learns Swift via TM in Gen 2, but it's the anime. This happens all the time. With that Swift though, Team Rocket's balloon blasts off, and Togetic catches the egg and brings it to Misty. Misty, being the caring person she is, begins crying tears of joy, thanking Togetic for saving her egg. Misty found her motherly love for that egg. It was her baby. With that love though, the egg began to glow. The egg could really feel the love Misty had, and thus finally hatched. The egg hatched, and out came a newly born Igglybuff. This Igglybuff though, wasn't your typical Igglybuff. It had the markings of the Orange Island Jigglypuff with a personality that absolutely loved to sing. She was the cutest Igglybuff anyone had ever seen. Ash whipped out his Pokedex to see if Dexter had any information on it. Dexter identified that it was Igglybuff, but the patterns did not seem to match up. Professor Elm then shows up and says, "That is a brand new species of Igglybuff ever seen here in Johto. I can't really even explain what you have there. It's an amazing discovery." Once Igglybuff hatched, the first two figures it saw were Togetic and Misty. Togetic immediately started doing what Pikachu had done when it was a baby. It started making the cutest of funny faces and playing games. Igglybuff started to laugh and giggle a lot. It was really wholesome to see. From then on, Togetic became an older sibling figure and began to help Misty care for Igglybuff. With that said though, Togetic, now a big sibling, got more inspiration to try its best, and thus battled for Ash, working very hard for him, winning various battles across the region. It helped him win against Bugsy alongside Cyndaquil, and even helped out against Chuck. Togetic eventually even learned Peck. Along the journey as well, Ash eventually finds Larvitar and Phanpy, and Togetic has a huge effect on how both of these Pokemon turn out. They played with each other and had the best times. Once his Johto journey was nearing the end, he made it to the Silver Conference, and won all his battles pretty well. Those victories were easy though, in comparison to what Ash had to go through next. It was finally time for him to face the biggest challenge of his journey yet, the battle with his all-time rival, Gary. As we know from the very beginning, Ash and Gary have always had an intense rivalry, and he always belittled him. But with Togetic now on Ash's side, Gary actually respected Ash a bit more, due to his increased maturity, though he would never admit that. Now, originally, Ash was not going to use Togetic in the battle with Gary, but after a fierce talk, Togetic had convinced him. Togetic had wanted to fight for Ash's honor, and to really show the relationship they had to Gary. Togetic knew Gary's respect for Ash due to it being able to sense emotions. It could sense the excitement and happiness Gary had for this match. Ash decided to leave Snorlax behind for this battle in place of Togetic. Togetic did not cease to disappoint, taking out two of Gary's Pokemon and losing to Golem. Togetic did not want to back down and disappoint Ash, so it battled so hard against Golem. Eventually though, it unfortunately got taken out. Gary highly respected Togetic's efforts, and even made the comment of it being as stubborn as its trainer. From there though, Charizard carried the show, taking out the rest of Gary's team. After that battle, Ash had his battle against Harrison, deciding to use Togetic again. Togetic got a huge highlight of being able to hit his Blaziken pretty hard, but in the end, Togetic and Ash both lost the Johto League. Harrison was a very fierce opponent, and definitely deserved to win that match. After the Silver Conference, Ash and friends are on their way back to Kanto, and they run into an unexpected trope of Jigglypuff on the way back. Little did Misty's Igglybuff know, our Jigglypuff and the leader of the group were actually Igglybuff's parents. They were putting on concerts and causing trouble for a nearby town. Ash and friends learn of this and begin to investigate. With that said, Jigglypuff remembers the gang and puts them all to sleep, because that's what happens all the time. Usually, everyone would get knocked out, but Misty Zigglypuff did not. With Igglybuff's parents realizing this, they look at Igglybuff in the eyes and realize that's their daughter. Igglybuff, realizing those two Jigglypuff were her true parents, told them it considered Misty and Togetic as its true parents, and it was really happy with them. Both Jigglypuff could see in Igglybuff's eyes and began to accept the fact. While waiting for everyone else to wake up, the other Jigglypuff began to walk into the distance. As they are walking, they get flashbacks of poachers trying to steal Igglybuff away as an egg. Both Jigglypuff put their lives on the line to make sure that nothing would happen to their daughter, hiding the egg in a very secure location on a grapefruit island to make sure the poachers wouldn't find it. The poachers also had soundproof headphones on, so the singing didn't work on them. Several members of the Jigglypuff group had been captured, with a small number remaining. The leader, our Jigglypuff, and a few others barely escaped. Out of nowhere, Igglybuff starts to get flashbacks of what her parents had gone through to keep her safe, and she started getting teary-eyed, thanking them from the bottom of her heart, because she had found the ones she had loved the most. All this happened as a Ho-Oh flew over the sky, where a big rainbow had appeared. Thank you to everyone for watching the video. Huge thanks to my phenomenal team and the amazing art done each week by Danny the Demon. I couldn't do all this without them. If you all enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Be sure to leave a comment too, as it really helps us out. I also do other content on my Twitch, where I stream Genshin Impact, Mystic Zora, where I do Pokemon Let's Plays and other gaming content, and of course MysticSage, where I do all anime content. Right now, I'm focusing on Inuyasha and Yashahime, so if you're interested in that, be sure to check it out. If you'd like to support me even further than that, check out my Patreon. Whether it's a $1 tip to get early thumbnail access, or the $10 tier to get cool perler bead charms and a shoutout. There's tons of reasons to join today. These lovely people did, and I thank them all so much for their support. It really means the world to me. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mr. Gumbrion, and I will see you all next time with some more amazing Pokemon content.